Hello guys. Welcome back to Gameline X, to another episode of Before You Get, the show where we give you some straight up gameplay and our first impressions of the latest games releasing. Hi folks, it's Zoe. In today, the journey into the unknown continues with Final Fantasy VII Remake, the highly anticipated continuation of the Final Fantasy VII Remake project. The first game set a pretty high bar. How these are going, but I think it's a rebirth. Pretty much blows everything about the first game out of the water. This is one hell of an ambitious game that marries open world game design with AAA spectacle and makes it look easy. It's a game with a ton of content, but it somehow manages to retain the polish and presentation of the first game. If not, brings it up a notch. If all you care about is a quick recommendation, Rebirth is an excellent RPG that gives you a lot more than the previous game. Okay, without another get into it, Rebirth continues directly where the previous game left off, starting with the flashback segment. This whole opening sequence is Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, writ large. It's character-driven, unhurried in its pace, and it has lots of little nooks and crannies to explore. The game runs buttery smooth on performance mode. On PS5, looks fantastic. Overall, do not let the demo visuals fool you. The actual game looks way better. Character models are much more detailed. But the thing I really started to notice has just how great the environments look this time around. They're not just surprisingly accurate to the Final Fantasy VII layouts. They are impeccably designed, and they're just full of personality. I might be a big fan, burning out a little bit here, but it really is amazing seeing some of the most memorable scenes from the original game plays out with some of the most lavish presentation possible. Even if, in one of the game's only kind of awkward moments, villagers stand on separates with guns for a long time without doing anything. It's fair. It's very weird. But it all looks incredible. A story perspective, Rebirth actually hits it on the park. Despite the fact the game has a lot less story progression than the previous game, you're mostly just going from one place to another following these black robe guys, but it's just so good with the characters.
That's so cool.
There are some new elements introduced here that keeps things intriguing, but anyone want to get close to spoiling anything. So I'm going to mostly avoid talking about story elements. Remake did a really good job reintroducing characters like Barrett, Tifa, and Aerith, making them likable and interesting. But this game cranks it up with the constantly amusing dialogue between party members and funny little scenes that play out all the time, like all the newcomers add to the humor. Red 13's now a full party member, and while he acts serious, he kind of steals the show with incredible animation and some totally absurd moments. UV is no longer relegated to a Seeger character and gets a lot more to do as a result. Some people might find her enthusiasm kind of annoying, but other voice acting is actually really good in terms of making you likable. And that goes for everyone. Actually, general, everyone has a lot more to do in Rebirth than the voice acting is uniformly excellent. This game reaches like a dragon levels of goofiness, and not some of the time. It's a lot of the time. The entire Junon sequence up through the boat ride and Casa del Sol is incredible. It takes the comedic aspects of the original game and cranks it up to 11. The original Final Fantasy VII is goofy as hell and filled with lighthearted moments, and this game doesn't just retain it. They double down. And I'm so here for it. I wish I could show you some of this stuff, because holy crap, this game gets so weird sometimes in the best possible way. You can change your party freely with each available character. You can fully explore the town, complete side quests, which unlike Final Fantasy XVI, are actually usually pretty fun and creative. You hunt down various hotspots around the map, each earn you intel experience. Common great level of detail. With this game, it's a place you spend like 5 minutes in the original, but you get the full lavish remake treatment here. And it's just an incredible looking place. Pretty much every town is like that. In fact, Rebirth manages to create one of the most beautiful fantasy worlds I've ever seen in a game. There's multiple areas where my jaw just dropped and I had to stop and take in the scenery. There's so much more visual variety in this game compared to the last one. And honestly, again, I don't want to say that the first one didn't have variety. It was just very specific in its setting. Rebirth doesn't have one giant continuous world, but each one of these zones is massive, which, like the original, can be junctioned under weapons to unlock those spells. These unlockable material, the extremely good in this game, is not easy. So, getting this stuff is essential. You're really incentivized to explore the world and get this intel. If there's one negative to the game, it's some of the open world stuff can get super repetitive. There is towers to climb, special monsters to hunt, crystal to scan, that kind of thing. And when you've done one, you've done basically all of them. Another issue, at least to me, is ledges and climbing. It can get a little awkward in the open world, trying to find places you can climb and place you can. Sometimes you can't jump down to spots that seem like you should be able to jump down to. Sometimes you get kind of stuck in the environment in awkward ways. There's no jump button, so navigation feels a little walking at times, at least on foot. Certain open world activities do mix things up, like catching a local about a ride, which have different abilities depending the reach you're in, and the special classified hunts in each region, where you're fighting unique boss enemy, probably the standout open world quest in these proto-relic missions. When you go around collecting these treasures that have this unique story attached to them. Sometimes they introduce a little mini dungeons or have you play through many games, and they're always a ton of fun to hunt down. Some of the open world content can get a little repetitive, the side content specifically. That's not too complicated, so it doesn't bog things down. Thankfully, it doesn't punish you for failing or skipping out of it entirely. In terms of combat, the game introduces a few new mechanics to mix things up. There's a new party experience gauge that separates you from your individual character level. It earns points. He's spending this new menu, called the Folio. This allows you to upgrade your knock character moves, which are these powerful abilities that could only be charged using individual characters in battle. It's a clever way to encourage switching characters, but invite, and you'll need to use this stuff, because the game is no joke. It can be really tough, especially against certain major bosses. Like, there's definitely an element of old school difficulty years, which is again a weird sentence. I've said it before, but combat is really challenging. It's tactical, at least at first. If you're losing, it can be hard to reverse things. The game really forces you to keep on top of your magic and abilities. Just going in and mashing buttons doesn't anywhere. The assess spell is even more essential here than the previous game. A lot of the tougher enemies and bosses have unique gimmicks to pressure them and make them more vulnerable to attacks, but you'd never be able to guess on your own. And sometimes exploiting these weaknesses is an absolute necessity to win. The battle system is as good as the original, but new moves, material, and party members keep it for feeling stale. Yuffie's basically the same thing as the Integrate DLC. But 13 Kate says totally new wrestling has some fun gimmicks and cancel the super chaotic and random. I don't really know how to use him well, because he's one of those characters that's either really good or really bad. But overall, this game takes a long time to get through.
That's that.
I say even the first remake, and they did such a damn good job. In terms of scope, this game just dwarfs it. It's massive, it's incredible looking, the characters are better than ever. The alterations of the story are the low intriguing without spoiling anything. Remake introducing new elements in the story, and Rebirth continues them, but I think this stuff is better done here. Some of the story turns are bound to be controversial, but I think there's a good balance of classic story elements and new stuff here. Rebirth is the game that's almost too big for its own good, and I did have a few issues with it, but it's easily a Game of the Year contender. I would be completely shocked if a large amount of games come out that are on this level this year. It's an achievement now. It's just time to play the waiting game for whatever the hell they're calling Remake Part 3. And, wow, what do you think? Navy's comment. Let us know you like this video, would like. If you're not subscribed, it's a great time to do. So we upload brand new videos every day of the week. Best way to see first, of course, subscribe. Don't forget to enable notifications. And as always, we thank you very much for watching this video. We'll see you next time.